Good morning. Good morning. Shh. Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 28th of July. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Weezar, Carrez, Krikorian. I'm sorry. Englander, Fuentes, Harris, Dawson, Weezar, Carrez, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Rue, Wesson. 12 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Well, it's understandable. It's the first day back, Patrice. It's okay. First order of business.
Approval of minutes.
Okay, Mr. Rue moves and Mr. Fuentes seconds. Next.
Committed to resolutions for approval.
Mr. Harris Dawson moves and Mr. Weezar seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, today is Tuesday. Now
Madam
the time for the
President,
flag
at this
salute.
time,
Do you wish to recess the regular and begin the special meeting?
Yes, let's go into special meeting to take up item 43. Mr. Herman, please sit down. Sergeants, can you please direct Mr. Herman to his seat? Madam Clerk, can we move on, please?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Harris, Dawson, Weezar, Carrez, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson. 15 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. There are no speakers on the queue, so I'm going to move on to cards. Mr. Herman, item 43.
And Madam President, just for the record, this item has been waived by the Public Safety Committee.
Mr. Herman, you wanted to speak? Item 43, that's what you filled out a card for?
Can you wait till I get up there?
You were in a rush to speak, sir. Go ahead.
You want me to run?
Time's running up.
I don't care. You were at the presentation across the street, Miss Anti-American. Suck on a donut or something, but don't tell me how to hurry up.
Mr. Herman, speak to the
I'm talking
item.
about weapons. I'm talking about weapons. That's what item 43 is about. And it's not the weapon that kills anyone, as brought out by the NRA. It's the idiots that take the weapons to kill stupid people who don't follow directions. So the bottom line is this. Don't say an object is the problem of killing people, because it's not. It's the lack of education, it's the lack of resources, it's the lack of intelligence, like Mr. Bloomfield, and they're thinking about it. What the F are we going to do about it? You should have sent something to Sacramento long ago regarding these banana peeling gun strips that you want to load up. Look at Englander's ear, looks like a banana clip. I could load that up into my weapons and go off on it, but I won't. Why? Because the same situation you put Mr. Hayes in, and you had him arrested for simply speaking out on something he felt that he had to say. Is it that difficult and unreasonable for you not just to give a person maybe 1 minute or 30 seconds to address the issue that Mr. Hayes did?
No, you're off the subject. Stay on the
Because Mr.
guns.
Hayes was here to talk about the weapons.
No,
he was here to say
not.
to you
You
that
speak
these
on this
weapons
subject, Mr.
that
Herman.
are assault weapons should be not in the hands of the LAPD. Turn them back. Don't use federal dollars to buy fucking guns and kill American people on our streets. And on top of that, don't sell them to criminals to kill people in our communities. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this discussion today. This is not about the Second Amendment violations of our civil rights. This is about the Constitution violation of our rights, ass.
No, you should at least respect the children. Don't humor him. You should respect the children that are here. Yeah, you are disrupting the meeting. Now, let's move on. We have Mr. Walsh. Ms. Ramirez, Daniel Luna, Perry Crouch. So you please start coming forward.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Again, we're 100% behind this motion. Do the right thing, and we will support you. Do the wrong thing, and we will attack you verbally. Now, this concerns, if you don't have it, banning the possession of large capacity magazines. They're not talking about TV Guide or Life magazine. They're talking about ammo for machine guns to mow people down. Now, in the United States, you're allowed, in many states, to murder people in motion picture theaters, any place you want. When they do this, they use large capacity magazines. So I think it's very important that the left, the right, the center in Los Angeles, everybody realize that we have a united front here. We put aside our differences. We don't want to be shot to death by people who are buying their ammunition by the hundreds and the thousands of bullets in magazines in the city of Los Angeles. Where's the state of Los Angeles? Well, state of California. Where's Jerry Brown? Where are the other states? Let the city council be the leaders. And where's the mayor? We don't see the mayor here either. He's out with his boyfriend, Glenn Dake. We want everybody to realize, do not come to the city of Los Angeles and think you can load up with ammunition and machine gun down people. And when they machine gun down people, half of them seem to always be black. Half of the incidents are black. The others are in movie theaters. This is Hollywood. This is the home of the movie theaters, and we say, no more machine guns in our movie theaters. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. Do large capacity magazines include grenade launchers, tomahawk cruisers, laser guided missiles, and a big mama bazooka? Because, ladies and gentlemen, Los Angeles in America is under siege by these nosy, jealous, malicious, wicked, evil, racist, hate-mongering wetbacks and Latino chango gangbangers who are truly un-Americans, and they are the ones who illegally possess all the firearms, not the American people. Let us ban them and their weapons by deporting all these ugly chango panzones, asco, and allow all legal law-abiding citizens to possess weapons as legally mandated in the Bill of Rights. Let us restore public safety and restore America. Let us also vote for our great honorable jefe, Donald Trump, who has the balls to be a leader and the balls to be a real man and not a pussy like most of these Latino changos who are, again, illegally possessing firearms and attacking and abusing and violating families, law-abiding citizens, Americans, and military veterans. That's why most military veterans are homeless, and they are under siege as well. Again, America is under siege. We are being taken over by these wetbacks and chango gangbangers. So if I were you, I'd get some landmines in East LA, and I'd get some bazookas up their asses. I think that's what we need. Mike Bonin is not for it. He's too busy pandering to these people. That's where Charlie Beck went wrong. He pandered to these illegal wetbacks and criminals. And guess what? Boomerang. Payback is a bitch. It's now his reputation down the toilet. Is that what you want, Mike Bonin? Is that what you like, Mitch Farrell? How about you, Herb Wesson? How about you, City Attorney? We're too busy protecting all the wetbacks and the gangbangers, including the LA Times. Why don't you do the real thing and the truth thing? Start defending law-abiding citizens. Allow them to possess firearms to protect themselves against these wetbacks and gangbangers. And hasta la vista, cabrones y cabronas. The easy way to deportations for them. God bless America.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Daniel Luna. I currently serve on the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council, although I'm not speaking in an official capacity representing them. I did come at the request of some constituents. The issue at hand is not the actual magazines. It's already illegal to import them. It's illegal to buy them or sell them or manufacture them. I don't think anybody is disagreeing with that part of it. But I do have some constituents that had some concerns because they bought their weapons years ago and when it was legal to have the capacity weapons that they have, and now they're wondering how they're going to go ahead and replace those. So my request would be to the council to consider the fact that there's an impact on law-abiding citizens who have quote-unquote high-capacity magazines for home defense. Thank you very much.
Please come forward.
Good afternoon or good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My friends, I'm not here to call y'all names. I don't do that. But I'm here to ask for y'all support. As you know, illegal weapons and the ammunition, it's not really the weapon, the gun per se that kills, but what comes out of the gun, which is the ammunition. And y'all can be bold and hysterical by banning this. And once y'all ban it, it's gonna take off like a rocket. I got my 3 kids here: Zachariah, Marcus, and my baby, Samantha. And if y'all know, I've been putting my life on the line for over 30 years out there in them streets, man, with nonviolence. And I'm asking y'all to help us. If y'all ban the ammunition, we'll stop these killings out here. As y'all know, they got this thing going around now where it's supposed to be 100 days and 100 murders in certain neighborhoods. If they don't have the ammunition to put them in the guns, we don't have to worry about that, because for African American, that's the leading cause of death. Is those automatic weapons. They're not Saturday night special 22s and 38s. There's automatic weapons that's killing our children. And I'm asking for y'all support to ban this. And my kids here, I love my kids, and I want them to grow up to be law-abiding citizens and taxpayers. Thank y'all so much, and please help us.
Maya, it could be Maya Parkey. Marilyn, would you please stop? Marilyn from the National Council of Jewish Women. Donna Brown. Ann Reese Lane. Margot Bennett. Please identify yourself and go
My
forward.
name is Marilyn Zatmary, and I am on the board of the National Council of Jewish Women. I am here in support of both of these gun ordinances, doing away with large capacity ammunition magazines, and also in having storage. If you have a gun at home, make sure that gun is stored. I have a niece who lives in Newtown, Connecticut, in a beautiful house on a lake in a wonderful area, a place that you would never think that gun violence would happen. Fortunately, my family is safe, but ever since that day, every day I wake up and I go to bed and there is another call, another thing on the news about gun violence and people being shot in theaters, et cetera, et cetera. I think that these measures need to be passed because we have the responsibility of starting somewhere. Thank you.
Please come forward, identify yourself.
Good afternoon, Council Member. I am Donna Brown, the mother of Clifton Hebert Jr. I'm here to share. I'm actually here with the National Council of Jewish Women, and I'm here to support Council Member Paul Krikorian. This is just really hard.
I know it's hard. Take your time. It's okay.
Okay. To fund the prevention of prevention, to pass the, oh God, where am I today? I'm here to support him in what he's doing. I am a mother who have lost her son through gun violence. Cliff was born 1985, and in 2008, coming from school, he was murdered. He was shot in the head. And up to this date, we have not solved the case. I'm here to support what we're standing for, to protect our neighborhood from this crime, this evil, this gun violence that's destroying our children's life. And that's what I'm here for.
And you did a phenomenal job. When you speak from your heart, you were as eloquent as anyone could be.
Thank you. Thanks.
No, thank you.
I mean, mentally, it's a constraint to go through what us parents are going through, losing our children every day on the roadside to gun violence. It's hard. It's hard, and it's difficult. And to take a stand for a change is what we're here to do, and that is what I'm here to do.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for coming. Please come forward and identify yourself. Don't read anything. Just speak from your hearts.
I think it's good afternoon. I'm Ann Rice Lane. I'm the founder of Women Against Gun Violence, which we started in 1994. It's been a long time. We've lived through terrible homicide rates in the city of Los Angeles. We were doing better. I hope that we're not looking forward to another rise in the homicide rates. But we've been working on issues of gun safety for 23 years. We worked with Mike Fuhrer when he was on the city council. We work with him now to help people understand they need to lock up their guns. We are very concerned about that issue and also about the high-capacity magazines. So we are hoping, I can't come back next week, but I want to say now that I really support safe storage, and I hope you will carry out what Councilmember Krikorian has introduced for you and which has been supported by so many of you over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could have...
My name is Margot Bennett, and I'm the Executive Director of Women Against Gun Violence. And I'm angry. I'm angry, Councilmember Englander, and I'm appreciative, Councilmember Krikorian, but mostly I'm angry. We absolutely support the ban on the possession of high-cap magazines. We supported it when it was introduced 2 years ago. We supported it when we spoke in favor of it in front of the Public Safety Committee over a year ago. And we support it now. And we're appreciative that the council vote is finally happening. But I'm angry. I'm angry it took this long. And I'm hoping that we and all the people in Los Angeles communities that were put at risk because of this delay will receive an explanation from the Public Safety Committee on why this delay took place. We expect this kind of inaction from our federal government on this issue, but not from our LA City Council. You have led the nation in life-saving laws, and you're a role model throughout the United States. We are proud of you and proud of our city. Do not let us down. I want to talk to you about exemptions. Exemptions from this and other public safety ordinances, because that's exactly what the ban on the possession of high-cap magazines and safe gun storage ordinances are. They are public safety ordinances, and I can't think of any other ordinance, public safety law that allows for exemptions for certain classes of people. Race car drivers still wear seat belts. Bartenders are not allowed to drive drunk. If you work for Sprint, you're not allowed to text and drive. We want you to consider these exemptions
Thank
with the
you.
same reasoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try Faraday Kilmer, maybe, and I'm sure I butchered it, but come forward, and I apologize. Lori Safran. Is it Aranda and Rhett Foster? Jackie Elkins? Ja Stepaoff? Yes, please identify yourself.
Okay, I have something for everybody.
Sergeants, would you please pick up her documents? They're coming, so you can go right in. Go right ahead.
Yes. My name is Faride Kumer. I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization International Health and Epidemiology Research Center, and which have been in existence since 1994 in Los Angeles County. And our nonprofit organization big project is anti-violence campaign. And because of that, we are very happy to tell you that we have got the very first Peace Award from American Public Health Association. So as an epidemiologist, health professional, and person who have been working with gun violence in the last 21 years, I wanted to tell you that I'm deeply concerned about the gun violence in this country, and especially when it comes to the children, and people who we need to protect them and support them and keep them safe. So I'm here to actually say that I'm very much in support of the measure that we hopefully be able to pass today, and urge you all to please vote yes for that. And also, not only we are interested in the gun violence and prevention, also we are even adamant to get toy gun away from kids. So I'm happy to say that zero tolerance policy, which has been in place for many years in LAUSD, was actually one of the groups who pushed it was us. Now, in the first 204 days, beginning of this 2015, we have 204 mass shootings. This is alarming. We shouldn't really have that. In our ongoing study that we are doing as we speak, our organization found that over 100 preschoolers, kids under 6, are taught.
Thank you. I'd love to give you more time, but if I did, I'd have to give everybody more time. Please come up and identify. And Ms. Pruitt, don't forget, I'll call you. Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Lori Safian. I'm president of Women Against Gun Violence. I am going to read today because I am reading some excerpts from a letter from Patricia Mace, a survivor of the shooting in Tucson, Arizona. And here's what Patricia has to say to you today. I am a survivor of an active shooting tragedy on January 8, 2011 in Tucson, Arizona, where my representative, Gabby Giffords, was holding one of her Congress on Your Corner events. Some think the number of rounds in a magazine doesn't matter. I can affirm to you that, without a doubt, it does. Some believe that the seconds it takes to change a magazine won't make a difference in saving lives, but I tell you, it most certainly can. High-capacity magazines definitely made a difference in the Tucson mass shooting. The shooter was stopped not by the so-called good guy with a gun, but by two ordinary citizens, good guys without guns that day. The shooter was reloading with a second 33-round magazine when Roger and Bill tackled him and brought him down on the sidewalk right next to me. Their heroism gave me the opportunity to grab a third magazine with 10 rounds, possibly preventing more victims of his shooting rampage. If the first magazine our shooter unloaded had only held 10 rounds, and two good guys without guns tackled him at that point, a beautiful little girl named Christina Taylor Green might today be arguing with her mother about her back-to-school wardrobe. She thanks you for considering her words and her experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Jackie Elkins. I'm with Women Against Gun Violence, and today's vote on the prohibition of high-capacity magazines is something I take very personally. I've been in Angelino my entire life. My parents were born here in the 20s. I was a Valley girl until just recently, until I moved to the West Side. My 4 siblings were born and raised here. I went to public school. I went to college here. And my husband and I have raised our 3 kids here. I know and I love Los Angeles. I love its diversity and having everything right in my backyard. But I am feeling very uneasy these days. Things I take for granted, like going to the movies, going to a Friday night Shabbat at my temple, or just saying goodbye to my daughter every morning before she leaves for school are anxiety-provoking because not a day goes by when I don't hear about another shooting. So many of those occurring in our places of worship, in entertainment, and learning. And while I recognize that our law-abiding citizens have the right to bear arms, there is no room for high-capacity magazines whose only purpose is to kill as many as possible in the shortest amount of time. Current law prohibits any of these people from manufacturing, importing, or keeping for sale, but the current proposed ordinance goes further to protect my community, my Los Angeles. Why is this so critical? Contrast last week's mass shooting at a movie theater in Lafayette, Louisiana, with the Aurora, Colorado movie theater shooting. The Lafayette shooter killed 4 people before running out of bullets and leaving the theater to change the magazine. This allowed a heroic survivor to pull the emergency siren, summoning aid. Compare that with the Aurora massacre, where 12 people were killed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please come and identify yourself.
Good afternoon, President Wesson and City Council members. My name is Rhonda Foster. I am with the Women Against Gun Violence, and this issue in regards to large capacity ammunition is very personal to me because of the fact that I am someone who was impacted by someone with a MAC-90 assault weapon. I had taken my son, Evan, to pick up his soccer trophy and sign up for the Winter Basketball League, and had our son, Alec, who was just 10 months at the time, with us. And as we were leaving the park, residents of Los Angeles, gang members, were seeking to retaliate from being shot at in Los Angeles and came to Inglewood, Darby Park, to kill anyone. And they had a MAC-90 assault weapon. I had seconds to respond. I sought to back out of the way as fast as I could. 75 rounds were shot from that weapon. 14 of them hit our vehicle. 2 of them hit Evan, killing him instantly, and Alec was injured with bullet fragments to his left eye. This will save lives, and that is what you need to think about. Evan was an amazing little boy at 7 years old. He impacted a lot of lives in that time, and his library at his school was named after him. Evan Lee Foster Library at Frank D. Parent School, and Pitzer College has an Evan Foster Scholar for students who are committed to ending violence in their communities. But he should be here now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourself. Identify yourself.
I'm Ruud Foster, and I am here representing Women Against Gun Violence today, but I'm also a survivor of violent crime. Rhonda Foster is my wife. 18 years ago, my son Evan lost his life to gun violence. 18 long years ago. As my wife said, there were 75 rounds that were fired off a MAC-90 assault weapon. I think about the fact that Evan is one who cared for his brother. He lost his life at age 10. At age 7, his brother was 10 months old, but he was always looking out for his brother and caring for his brother. And where the bullets came into the car, they came pretty much in the direction of where his young brother's car seat was. But Evan took the bullets. Evan was always looking out for his brother. He was probably cooing and playing with him and making sure he was all right. And Evan took the bullets. But one of the things I would say to you today, City Council, is if it had been a low capacity, I'm sorry, I'm emotional. If it had been a low capacity weapon, who knows what have happened? What might have happened. Evan might still be here today. He might still be here to dote over his brother, to love his brother, to encourage his brother about life. 75 rounds were fired off. Like my wife said, I believe 14 hit our car. 2 hit Evan. But if it had only been 10 or less, he might be here with us today. You must do the proper thing. Not the political thing, but the human, the right thing. And vote for this measure.
Thank you. And sir?
My name is Joshua Stepikoff. Thank you, President Wesson. Thank you, President Wesson, for having me out today. And I want to start off by noticing that some of you are wearing orange ribbons, and if you're not wearing an orange ribbon, I ask you to look to your colleagues and wonder what it is that they're wearing that for and you're not. And that's because they know somebody who's been affected by gun violence. And if you don't wear a ribbon today because you don't know somebody, well, I'm going to change that right now. My name is Joshua Stepikoff, and in 2 weeks from now will be 16 years since I faced a real Nazi, not one of you, a real Nazi at the North Valley Jewish Community Center just here in Los Angeles. A gunman came in with an Uzi knockoff and fired 70 rounds in less than a minute, shooting 5 children, injuring killing a postal man, as well as some camp faculty. It was a beautiful summer day like today is, and I was out doing what every kid should be doing. I was 6 years old.
I remember.
And I'm sure a lot of the law officers in here today will remember that day. It is a historic day in Los Angeles history, and I'm here to support Councilmember Krikorian on banning high-capacity magazines. There should not be any exemptions for anybody, because I may have the opportunity to live today because I was lucky, but some others do not. And I think it's extremely important that we take into consideration the roles that you have here as councilmen and women to make history in the city of Los Angeles. You have that opportunity every single day, and I urge you to make that right move today to continue making history and to improve the city of Los Angeles and our safety. We are all here in support today of Councilmember Krikorian and his bill because we do believe that it can save lives. So thank you all for hearing me, and have a good one.
No. Thank Josh. Thank you, and a big thank you to all of you for coming out. Thank you, but to everyone. So Donna, please come forward, and we're not done yet.
Okay, anyway, I wanted to tell you that criminals and murderers and gang members don't care for laws. They break them, you dummies. So the magazine law won't help people that break the laws. Anyway, Marines were killed for the lack of firepower. That's gun control laws for you. Left them unable to defend themselves. Just another way to slowly take our Second Amendment rights for the common people and the military not in combat. We may need these large magazines to be able to protect ourselves against people who have these magazines illegally, especially now since our country won't protect us with criminals over the border, whether our gangbangers here, with ISIS followers in America. Never again. Remember that word that was said over Germany. Germany took away the guns, and then they took the people away. Slowly by slowly, we will we're losing our rights. We don't need any guns. They'll say we don't need guns anymore. Just the police and the ones protecting us protecting our politicians will be enough. So these people will, pretty soon that they'll take away the gun rights, and don't believe them. Believe me, it starts off with the magazines, which they say that we don't need, and slowly there's plenty of other laws that will go after the guns. So we don't need to disband us. And this law just really won't work, because basically what you're doing is the ones that do want to kill with these large capacity guns will still get them. They're going to break the laws. They don't care if they're killing. They don't care if they have one more. So what? They have murder and they have large capacity. Doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Now, if I could call up a personal friend, Sandra Pruitt. I know your story. I'm sure it will, when you share it with the members, it will move them like it moved me. And after Sandra, if I could have Suzanne, last name with a B, is it? I don't want to mess that up. Daniel Healy and Andrea Brooks. Sandra.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Pruitt, and today...
Just take your time. It's okay.
My son would be 33 years old. But unfortunately, in March 2009, he was murdered. Every time I hear about a shooting, a mass shooting, or these gang shootings, it breaks my heart. I have had to learn to live a new normal without my oldest child. My two other siblings, we suffer by not having our leader there. So I'm in support of the ban on these heavy machine rifles. I'm here to say that it will make a difference. We have to start somewhere. It's important. And if you could, just remember Jarrell Omar Green, and when you're making that vote, think about how proud he would be that you're doing something to make a difference. Thank you.
And let me before I call the next one, just let me say this, something about Sandra. She could be just bitter and angry, but she's taken all of those emotions and turned it into trying to make our community a better place. So you have more strength than I could ever have, and I salute you and the many others that are here today. She is an asset to our community, and it's my pleasure to serve you. Please come forward.
My name is Suzanne Verge. I'm here on behalf of the Los Angeles chapter and the San Fernando Valley chapter of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. First, I want to thank you for listening to these stories. We had a rally this morning, and you can feel the pain as you felt the Fosters, all the pain. And then
Yes.
We're all members of a club we would never want to be part of, survivors of gun violence. And on behalf of the Brady Campaign, we hope that you will support the prohibition on the high-capacity magazines and the safe storage laws. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please, sir, identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Daniel Healy. I'm here on behalf of the Violence Prevention Coalition of Greater Los Angeles. Good day, Council President and Council members. I just want to thank you all for considering this ordinance, which I think is very important and critical in reducing the gun violence in our city. Thank Councilmember Krikorian for being a champion on this issue. Our country is facing an epidemic of gun violence. On any given day, we're losing 32 people to homicide involving a firearm and 58 people due to suicide involving a firearm. So we need to do everything in our power to stop this gun violence. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please come and identify yourself.
My name is Andrea Brooks. I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Studio City, and we are here today to help support the Women Against Gun Violence. It's a game we play very often in LA. How many steps Kevin Bacon is away from a particular actor, how many steps we are away from something else. I don't want any more people not to be a step away, but to be a victim. I am very blessed that I'm steps away. Only 2 steps for something that happened just this last week, 2 steps away from Sandy Hook, but I'm not like many of the people who've already talked to you today where that is the person is right next to them. Please do the right thing today.
Thank you. Okay, if I could get a Geraldine Stapleton, I think Chad Chung maybe with the, what is that? Calculus Shooting Sports Association, Jackie Elkins, Brian Barajas. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Geraldine Stapleton. I am the new president for the California National Organization for Women which is the largest organization for women's rights. We're here to support both of the measures. As you know, one of our core issues is ending violence against women and girls. So our major concern is the protection for them. We are here to, like I said, support both measures in terms of banning high-capacity magazines, and also, I guess, which will be coming up next week, is the provision for a lockbox or storage, safe storage. So we would like support. We would like you to know that we would like to urge you to pass both of these measures. I do have a couple of, I guess I do have time for personal story. One in terms of, I also serve as the pleasure of my council person on the domestic violence task force as the alternate rep. As a person that comes from that myself, knowing that there is a gun in the house is psychologically, emotionally, and just trauma produces. So having a gun put in storage would at least alleviate that somewhat, to know that you might have more time to get yourself to safety. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Please come forward. And it's Cal Guns, not calculus. My mistake.
Okay. Mr. President, honorable members of City Council, thank you for allowing me the time to speak against this issue. My name is Chad Chung, and I stand before you as the director of the Cal Gun Shooting Sports Association. We are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to expanding the shooting sports in California through education, community action, and community events. Together with our sister website, calguns.net, we represent more than 130,000 Californians. I'm also a resident of the city of Los Angeles. I'm also a competitive shooter, a marksman, a gun owner, a California DOJ-approved firearm safety instructor, and an NRA-certified instructor. First, I can't tell you how frustrated I am at this honorable body chose to bring this item to its agenda with only a few days' notice. In fact, I was actually unaware that this was even on the agenda until a reporter called me yesterday afternoon to let me know what my comment was. In a handout I recently provided, you'll see there's a top picture of myself and two teammates. This picture was taken last Saturday, 3 days ago, of myself at a rifle competition. We are holding AR-15 pattern sporting rifles using high-capacity ammunition feeding devices for legal purposes. 140 of us shot 18 stages, expending more than 70,000 rounds over 2 days, and nobody was injured. On the bottom, you'll find a picture of 4 magazines. They're labeled A through D. They all look the same. Can you tell me which one of these is a high-capacity ammunition feeding device and which one is not? They look the same to me. I don't think you can tell, or any police officer can either. I already spoke before the Public Safety Committee last year when Mr. Englander was president. I think he was chairman of that committee.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. If I could, do we have Mr. or Miss Jackie Elkins? Jackie? Brian? Come forward. And Wayne Spindler. Go ahead.
All right. My comment for this, it's very simple. One of the reasons why we have an issue with violence, and particularly in this country, and let me make one point clear, you can only minimize the violence, but you're not going to do it by some sort of attack on some material thing, because if that was true, then my friend who's in the hospital because some hit and run, that is, a car hit him, ran away, and he's in the hospital right now, then you don't see me banning cars. So the issue here is what I went through in the general public comment of my statement. The issue with this country is we have a problem with the way, in this particular world, we think of ourselves. In other words, what is the capacity to which we can resolve our problems? And the problem here is, look at your economy. If you don't have a future, the idea here would be people resort to using violence. The issue then is, how do you resolve your issue of people who are prone to violence? Whether it be a World War II situation veteran who goes crazy, or a Vietnam veteran who goes crazy, or a Iraq veteran who goes crazy, or a citizen who grew up under violent conditions, picks up a gun and kills someone. The issue here is the mission, the role of the individual themselves, which pertains to the future of their country. And I guarantee you, anybody who has a vision of the future, who wants to kill? No one.
Thank you.
Yes. Now we have this idiot that we have as a city attorney declaring a large capacity magazine to be a public nuisance and an immediate threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. It's absolute bullshit, because the Second Amendment, the Heller decision by the Supreme Court, clearly indicates that a person has a right to bear arms. But large capacity clips don't kill people until they're put into a gun and somebody uses the gun. People kill people. Large clips don't do anything to anybody. Fiscal impact statement. What about all the people that are in the gun business? How does it affect them? It puts them out of business. But you don't care about that. This is about exposing the city to needless litigation. The city will be sued. Millions of dollars will be spent by attorneys to defend the city. Those are outside counsel. They will be paid, and then they will give campaign donations and funnel it back into your campaigns. That's all this is about. But to quote rapper Willie D out of his CD Controversy, put the fucking gun away. If you're going to live, motherfucker, put the fucking gun away. Na 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 na. Ain't gonna shoot no goddamn buddy. If you put the fucking gun away, lock up the guns and don't shoot people. It's a societal problem. It's not clips. We have a societal problem. People don't have jobs. People aren't working. Address that, and then you won't have stupid shit like this. Vote no.
Thank you. So again, you've proven that you can curse, Wayne, so I'd almost forgot. Okay, now with that said, that concludes comment on this issue. Mr. Koretz, I have on the... Or do we want to defer to you, Mr. Krikorian, to start this off, or how do we want to? Then let's go with Paul. Why don't you? Well, I forgot. I got both Pauls.
Yeah.
Koretz. Well, Krikorian, go on.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the public for coming down and providing their input. And I'd like to take just a moment to ask that anyone who has personally suffered a firearms tragedy, whether you've been injured yourself, whether a member of your family has been injured or a friend has been injured, I'd ask you to please rise in memory of those who've been injured. And I thank you all for having the courage to come down and speak today. Members, thank you. Members, less than 2 weeks ago, 5 members of the United States Armed Forces were gunned down and died. They didn't die in Iraq. They didn't die in Afghanistan. They died in a recruiting station in Lafayette, Louisiana, when a gunman came through the door with a semi-automatic weapon with a 30-round magazine. These mass shootings we hear about in the news so often that some of the names of the places have become part of our national lexicon. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Isla Vista, Aurora. These are places that have gained new significance to our nation because of the tragic mass killings that have happened in those places. And yet, it's not just the ones that make the news. The Washington Post reported that in the first 207 days of 2015, this country has had 207 mass shootings. Doesn't always make the news. Maybe we don't have enough people killed to catch the attention of the news. But 207 mass shootings in 207 days. The majority of those mass shootings involve people armed with large capacity magazines. The simple reason being that when one has a large capacity magazine, a weapon's lethality increases geometrically. The number of rounds that a person with ill intent can fire off in a very short amount of time increases dramatically, and with that, so does the degree of the violence. When Gabrielle Gifford was shot in Tucson, and so many others who were there to hear her speak, in 16 seconds, there were 33 rounds fired. That magazine was emptied in 16 seconds. And as Lori Safian shared with us, one of the survivors of that shooting had some very profound comments about the impact of the capacity of that magazine on the people that were affected and those who survived. Now, California, as it has in so many other areas, has led the nation in trying to address the problem of large capacity magazines. And 15 years ago, our state banned the sale, the manufacture, and the importation of large capacity magazines, magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds. And yet, for some reason, we have no way of knowing why that might be, but the legislature chose not to ban the possession of these large capacity magazines. So as a result, the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department are left with a situation where when they encounter somebody with a large capacity magazine, that person can say, well, you know, I got this 20 years ago. I've had it ever since. And they are left with very little ability to be able to distinguish those magazines that were grandfathered from before the statewide ban and those that were purchased online last week. And let me speak to that for a moment, because on the day that that shooter walked into that recruiting station in Lafayette, on that same day, if somebody was sitting here in California and decided, you know, I'd like to have a 30-round magazine for my AK-47 too, you could go to a website and find any number of 30-round magazines readily for sale. And then you might think, you know, 30 rounds, I have to reload too often. It's inconvenient for me. I really need a 75-round drum magazine, readily available online. And then you think, you know, 75, I got to change out that drum magazine far too often if I can only shoot 75 rounds at a pop. Why don't I get a Chinese-made 125-round drum magazine? With a few keystrokes, it can be yours. Now, when the person who acquires that drum magazine encounters someone from the Los Angeles Police Department, how are they going to be able to distinguish that purchase from one that was purchased 25 years ago? That's why it's important that this council act today to once and for all prohibit the possession of large capacity magazines, which our state legislature said 15 years ago were so dangerous that we shouldn't be able to sell, manufacture, or import them. Once and for all, after 15 years, let's close this loophole and ban possession of these large capacity magazines. This is a small step, members. This is not something that is all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, going to make our city crime-free or gun violence-free. But I do know that last Friday, when I was here in City Hall, I got a phone call about a shooting that happened on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City in my district, in one of the quietest, most crime-free parts of our city you would want to see. A place bustling with activity. Children, adults coming in and out of stores and Starbucks and restaurants there, enjoying a sunny afternoon when a gunman began shooting. Thankfully, our police department responded in such a quick and professional manner that no one was injured other than the gunman who was fatally shot. But I can tell you, if that gunman had intent to mow down dozens and dozens of people, and instead of the weapon he chose was armed instead with the same weapon that the gunman walked into that recruiting station with a few high-capacity magazines, there would be dozens, if not hundreds, of dead on Ventura Boulevard that we would be mourning in this council today. So let's act once and for all. Let's ban the possession of large-capacity magazines. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank Mr. Krikorian not only for bringing this measure forward, but for his long history of work on gun violence issues. We first met when he was a private citizen and an attorney working on these issues many years ago. I think this is one of the ultimate no-brainers for the City Council. This is an absolute common sense measure. I think everyone can see that if you have a limit to the capacity of a magazine and you have a massacre taking place, the time to stop them is when they have to stop to reload. And if that's after they've taken 75 shots instead of 5 shots or 10 shots, that is going to make a difference that will impact the lives and the safety of dozens of people. It's not just something intuitive. You shouldn't need a study to figure this out, but the issue has been studied, and not surprisingly, a much higher number of people are shot and a much higher number of people are killed when a shooter in this situation is in possession of a high-capacity magazine. And I would assume, I don't recall the circumstances in the legislature at the time, but I would assume possession wasn't included because gun violence issues are difficult in the state legislature. And the NRA and the other gun groups have a significant amount of sway, and you have to take things a step at a time. And it's usually, in the years I've been involved, been local government that takes a first step, and you have cities take actions like this, and then the state legislature in California often will follow suit. So I think this may be a first step that will not only protect the residents of Los Angeles, but ultimately may protect the residents of the entire state of California. And I ask my colleagues to unanimously pass this critical measure.
Thank you. Mr. Englander.
Thank you. First, I want to thank all you for coming out and having the courage to stand up and come out. Josh, Granada Hills, which is where I live, the North Valley Jewish Community Center, which is where I grew up, is right down the street from my house. In fact, I believe you attended the same schools as my kids. That almost didn't happen. In my office, I have a huge poster blown up and framed, a wall-size poster of all the kids being let out by the Los Angeles Police Department after that incident by their hands and being walked out of there scared to death. We talk about Sandy Hook as being, and there's the picture, and that's the one I've got in my office. We talk about Columbine. We don't have to look far. We don't have to look for national press. We could talk about Granada Hills. We could talk about Studio City. I know some of you know my story. I want to thank the survivors, but I never called myself a survivor. I called myself a victim. 20 years ago, I stood right there. And I asked the people that were sitting here, for a $50,000 reward for the capture and the apprehension of the people that killed my uncle. My uncle, who was more like my dad that raised me, killed on Devonshire right down the street from the JCC by 3 teenage gangbangers as part of their initiation into a gang, shot him in the back as he ran away because he got scared. After I graduated the Los Angeles Police Department and I put on a uniform and a gun and a badge, said I'm going to go patrol in a black and white so this doesn't happen to another family member, it struck me hard. And I realized that the primary responsibility, first and foremost, of law enforcement is not to effectuate an arrest. It's to prevent a crime from happening in the first place. It's so we don't have another victim and another family out there, even one. I went out with all of my friends and everybody I knew, knocking on doors, filling out grant paperwork to build an at-risk youth center in the San Fernando Valley so kids had an alternative away from drugs and gangs and guns, and they had an opportunity they otherwise wouldn't have. And that's where I did my inauguration. That's why I ran for office. I support Paul Krikorian's motion and effort on this. I always have. I have from the beginning, and I do today. I'm not going to get into the nuances of some of the details, and I've got a minor motion supported by law enforcement on this as well. And I'll read that into the record in a moment. But when we've got support on this from law enforcement, not just law enforcement, by the way, by the Los Angeles Police Protective League, this is the organization that fights to protect the people that fight to protect us. And they support this. It says a lot to me as well. With that, I would like to first strike the language from 43A, and instead I'd like to move that 43A be amended to add an instruction to the city attorney to draft an amendment to the ordinance which would provide an exemption for any retired peace officer holding a valid, current, carry concealed weapons permit issued pursuant to California Penal Code. I'd like to further instruct the clerk to place the matter on the Tuesday, August 4th City Council agenda for City Council consideration. And seconded. Thank you. With that, excuse me. With that, thank you. Please don't disrupt the meeting. I want to thank Councilmember Krikorian for bringing this forward. It's one of the reasons that I show up to this job, that I ran for office, that I continue fighting the good fight. This is by no means a cure. And to those who, quite frankly, speak up against this, to say that high-capacity magazines is a right to bear arms, we know too many examples. This doesn't limit the number of magazines, which is a discussion in and of itself. You could still have 50 of them on you. It doesn't take that away. But it does something significant. And lives will be saved because of it. We heard one of the testimonies earlier, how somebody shot 75 rounds into a vehicle and their son would probably be alive today had it not been for that. As a parent, I can't fathom it's the worst thing you could possibly ever experience in your entire life is losing a child. I ask for your support in both the ordinance and the amendment. Thank you.
Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, this morning I talked about whether we were going to be that society that just becomes numb to these mass shootings. And when you read headlines such as the Washington Post, where they talk about there's 204 mass shootings in 204 days so far this year. It's alarming because you don't get to hear about all the mass shootings that have occurred this year alone, but 204 mass shootings in this country is tragic. And I often feel that when we turn on the TV, like I did on Friday, and I saw that man on Ventura Boulevard shooting a gun up in the air, are we that society, are we that community in Los Angeles that just thinks this is just life as we know it? And we're not. We're better than that. We're better than turning on the television and watching just another mass shooting, more parents speaking about having to bury their children. We're better than that. How many bullets do you need to defend yourself before you have to reload? How many does it take? We're better in the city of Los Angeles. When the city of Los Angeles leads, the rest of the cities will follow. This is common sense legislation that we have to support. We should have done it 2 years ago, and it's about time we get it right now. Mr. Krikorian, thank you for not only championing this issue, but for helping us bring this forward today and finally have a final vote. And we look forward to having the trigger law vote next week as well. So thank you very much, sir. And I also support this, and I encourage all of you to let's do the right thing by not only these survivors, but let's do the right thing by all the communities that we represent here in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being here.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to thank my colleagues for bringing this matter forward. Gun violence is a health epidemic in our country. I don't care what kind of weapon it is. Saturday night special or a 75 round capacity firearm. It just doesn't make sense. I was told that in our community during the week of the South Carolina tragedy, there had been almost a dozen shootings, in South LA. No one said much about it. I mean, it's just business as usual. Well, it can't be business as usual. And so I think we have to take every step we can to limit the access to weapons, to ammunition. Certainly we want to increase education associated with use of firearms, but to the extent we can limit, make a statement about the usage of these weapons with the tragedies that they provide. It's just the time is now. The time is right. And again, we don't have to look at these gigantic assault weapons. I met last night with gang intervention folks, neighborhood folks, community people about the shootings in South LA, and people are upset. They're terrified. It appears that this online threat, this 100 killings in 100 days, is a hoax. But people are still scared. They're still concerned, and it's a tone, especially when you have incidents all over the country where needless acts of violence have taken their lives and disrupted the whole community. So I stand in support of Ms. Krikorian with this and others who've been very focused on this. Hopefully we can make a statement, sends a message, not only to those who would shoot these weapons, those who would possess them, but a message to the community that we're serious about working together to collaboratively changing the mindset, changing the environment, changing the access to weapons like these of mass destruction. Thank you.
Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Krikorian, for bringing forth this motion and the one we'll vote on next week. They're both smart and sensible and absolutely necessary. This is not about self-defense. This is about a prescription for senseless death. This is a tool to kill kids, to kill cops, to kill churchgoers, to kill innocent people. And it's absolutely senseless that it's available. And this is not a cure-all, but it is a small and important step to make us a little bit more safe here in Los Angeles, to make sure that Los Angeles is a little bit more of a sanctuary for children, a little bit more of a sanctuary for churchgoers, a little bit more of a sanctuary for cops, a little bit more of a safe place from senseless death. So I'm absolutely pleased to be standing in support of Mr. Krikorian on this and ask for an aye vote.
Okay, so without objection, Mr. Krikorian will have one vote. Or did you want to close?
If I may, Mr. President, I would just like to take one moment to recognize and invite to come up to the table Juliet Leftwich. And I'd like to also ask that she be joined by our Deputy City Attorney, Brian Satilli, who's worked on these issues so much. Juliet Leftwich is the leading expert in the state of California on local regulation of firearms. She literally wrote the book on many of the actions that local governments have been able to take in the absence of action by the federal government and the state government. So I'm pleased to welcome her down to visit with us. I think that she wanted to say just a couple words, but she and Mr. Satilli are also available in case any members have any questions for them as well. Ms. Leftwich, welcome.
Thank you very much, Council Member. It is my pleasure to be here today. My name is Juliet Leftwich, and I'm the legal director of the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. We were formed in the wake of the 101 California Street assault weapon massacre in San Francisco, which left 8 dead and 6 wounded, and the shooter in that massacre used large-capacity ammunition magazines. We provide assistance to state and local governments nationwide seeking to enact or defend laws to reduce gun violence. We also track all gun-related state legislation and Second Amendment litigation nationwide. We've had the privilege of working with California cities and counties for over 20 years on local gun laws. During that time, over 100 local governments have enacted over 350 strong laws to reduce gun violence in their communities. As Councilmember Koretz noted, many of those local laws have trickled up to the state level, and now the state of California has the strongest gun laws in the country. The city of Los Angeles has been in the forefront of this local ordinance movement, and the ordinance under consideration today exemplifies the type of common sense, legally defensible law that cities can enact to help reduce gun deaths and injuries. As you've heard today repeatedly, the danger posed to public safety by large capacity magazines is undeniable. Large capacity magazines, some capable of holding more than 100 rounds of ammunition, are the common thread in almost all of our nation's mass shooting, including those at Newtown, Aurora, Tucson, Virginia Tech, Columbine, and San Francisco. These magazines are designed for military use, and the idea behind them is to kill large numbers of people quickly and efficiently, and that's exactly what they do. Congress banned the manufacture, possession, and sale of these dangerous magazines in 1994. That law, however, contained a 10-year sunset provision, and it was allowed to expire in 2004, despite overwhelming public support. California banned the manufacture and sale of these dangerous magazines in 2000, but it did not ban possession, which at the time was still covered by the federal law. Therefore, the Los Angeles ordinance, which would ban possession, would serve to fill an important gap in existing state law. Currently, 8 states, the District of Columbia, and the cities of San Francisco and Sunnyvale ban large-capacity magazines. Los Angeles is on firm legal ground here. In 2013, Sunnyvale voters overwhelmingly approved a ban on the possession of large-capacity magazines. The gun lobby filed suit, as they frequently do, arguing, as the opponents of this ordinance argue, that the law violates the Second Amendment. In March of this year, however, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed a district court's decision rejecting that argument. The Ninth Circuit held that Sunnyvale was entitled to rely on evidence showing that these magazines are disproportionately used in mass shootings, as well as in crimes against law enforcement, and that most defensive gun use incidents involve fewer than 10 rounds of ammunition.
The Ninth Circuit also noted that possession bans had been uniformly upheld by courts across the country. There's also no merit to the claim that I've heard has been asserted here that this ordinance is preempted by state law. Under the California Constitution, local governments have the authority to regulate in the interest of public health and safety that is equal to that of the state, unless the state has taken that authority away. There is no express preemption here, and the mere fact that the state bans the manufacture and sale of these magazines is simply not adequate for a court to infer that the legislature intended to occupy this entire field. Finally, there's no merit to the opposition claim that this law would constitute a taking of property in violation of the Constitution. Courts have long distinguished between laws that involve the government taking of property for public use, which do constitute a taking, from those that involve a ban or limitation on property that is a threat to public safety, which do not constitute a taking. Under this ordinance, the city would not be confiscating large capacity magazines for public use. In fact, it would not be confiscating these magazines at all. Owners would have 60 days to remove the magazines from the city, to surrender them to the police department, or to sell them to a firearms dealer. In short, this law is a legitimate exercise of the city's police power to protect public safety. In closing, I would just say, as others had said, that no single law will stop the devastating gun violence that kills nearly 3,000 Californians and injures more than 6,000 others in this state every year. A ban on the possession of large capacity magazines is not a panacea, but it is certainly a common sense, legally sound law that will help reduce the bloodshed. I applaud the city for its years of leadership and urge you to vote yes on this important measure. Thank you.
Okay, so thank all of you for coming down and spending so many quality hours with us. I know some of you have been here since like 9 o'clock, and I want you to know that we appreciate your presence. So, Mr. Krikorian, with that said, why don't we vote on the issue, approve the ordinance, and then we'll take up we take up the other component on a week from today, right? The amended.
I want to vote.
Yeah, but when it comes back,
so the
ordinance.
So the first vote you're suggesting, Mr. President, will be on the ordinance before us.
If that's the way you want to do that.
What, yeah. So first vote on the ordinance before us, and then Mr. Englander had indicated his interest in an amendment that could go through the ordinary course. If it's introduced today, we could vote on that motion, and then any amendments would come back before the council. Is that right? As I understand it?
Just for clarification, that we'd go ahead and vote on the ordinance as written, presented before us. And then we'd take a second vote on the amendment instructing, as we did, the city attorney for that change, and that would be scheduled for next Tuesday. So that would actually require a vote for the city attorney.
Okay. Ms. Martinez?
Point of clarification, I just wanted to separate the two votes.
That's what we're doing, correct?
But are you voting for your amendment today or next week?
On a technicality, we're voting today on the amendment to send it to instruct it to the city attorney.
Okay, so you are voting on the amendment today.
And then we'll be voting on the actual amended ordinance language next week.
So as long as we have two separate votes today, great.
Okay, so which would be the first vote? On
the ordinance.
The ordinance. So, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Root.
Wait, so are we voting on 43 or 43A? 43. Okay.
On the ordinance
original
as it's drafted, that's before the council, so that would be item 43.
Mr. Correct.
So will we have a separate chance to debate the amendments?
It's coming back next week, correct?
No. You said we're voting on it today also.
It's an instruction.
Will we have the ability to debate the instruction?
Yes.
after we've cast this vote.
Yes.
So that is, as with any other instruction about an ordinance, the instruction would go out. The city attorney would presumably draft language. It would come back to the Public Safety Committee. It would be heard in Public Safety Committee. Then it
And
would
at
come
that-
back to the council. All those would be opportunities to debate any amendments. Is it,
Okay,
Mr. England,
so-
are we, am I stating that correctly, Mr. England?
Except for the provision that the amendment included it just coming directly to council. So, but it'll still be before us for discussion.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so let's vote on the ordinance. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we'll vote on the amendment. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 3 noes.
That's
Okay.
adopted.
So, Mr. Rude, that you got your vote in time, or is okay? All right, Mr. Yes, Mr. Harris Dawson. Okay, this is the last. We can have Mr. Harris Dawson as a no vote because that does not change the outcome. Okay, so.
And for the record, that makes the vote 8 ayes and 4 noes.
Okay, all right, Mr. Krikorian.
Mr. President, because the vote on the ordinance was a unanimous vote, the ordinance has passed without need for a second reading. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that
Mr.
is
President?
correct.
Thank you very much.
All right, all right. Madam Clerk is there.
Forthwith,
Go
please,
right
Mr.
ahead.
President.
Forthwith. Madam Clerk.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted. They are referred. Next.
That clears the desk.
Okay.